In this video, I'm going to give you 5 things that the higher self is wanting you to let go of in your life. Sit tight. Let me start off this video with the question, who is this mysterious, ambiguous higher self? I guarantee you have all experienced the higher self. This is when you feel in the flow. Maybe you're feeling creatively in the flow, or just doing everyday normal tasks. You're in the flow. It feels like ease. It feels peaceful. It feels like there's no push-pull to it. This is when you feel powerful. And limitless, when you feel joyful and grateful for no apparent reason, maybe. That, to me, is being connected to your higher self. So call it what you will. A lot of people have different names for it. Let's call it the cosmic self. That sounds cool. Let's call it the badass self. Let's talk about the universal self. Let's talk about the higher self. You know, whatever you want to call it. It doesn't matter what you call it. It's something that you feel innately. So I'm going to give you 5 things that the higher self, cosmic self, badass self may be trying to get you to release in your life. Number 1, taking inventory of surface level relationships or friendships in your life. Not just friendships, but surface level ingredients, I'll say. And this isn't all surface level stuff. I mean, we can still, be amused by entertaining things, right? And people and having friends. Like, we don't just cut people off for no reason. That's being kind of like, I don't know, judgmental in some capacity. But what I mean is any kind of surface level relationship or friendship that, where the dynamic has changed into this kind of thing, where it's now kind of just taking energy out of you or pulling you down or holding you down to some capacity. Maybe there was some depth years ago and now there's not. You have to understand that friendships change over time, relationships change over time, how you feel about certain things change over time. And we can use, I'll give the example of friendship. We can use people as almost substances in a way. Like, we get addicted or attached to certain people to fill some sort of void for us. So you have to be aware of what void maybe somebody in your life is filling, why, if there's no depth there, you may be craving more depth, or the higher self is craving more depth, okay? So if you're having these relationships, the dynamic in a relationship has no substance to it. If it's not benefiting you in any capacity other than filling some sort of addictive quality or void, emotional void, that you haven't taken kind of a magnifying glass to yet, then this is something that you really need to take inventory of in your life. Like, because some of this stuff can drain your energy, pull you down. For example, a lot of gossiping and drama, or those relationships or dynamics where there's just there's nothing there anymore, okay? And you're still kind of holding on to them because maybe it meant something to you in the past. And now that that has changed, it's like this fear of letting go. A lot of time it's a fear of letting go, a fear of setting boundaries or limitations with those certain types of ingredients in our lives. So if you're getting the nudge sometimes or something doesn't feel right, just realize that a lot of stuff can morph and change, and over time may not be for our benefit or have any sort of, benefit to our potential in any aspect. And it's okay to release, it's okay to let go of some of that stuff. Number 2, shielding. So when we grow up as kids, or when we're kids, we play pretend, right? And the adults think it's cute, and we pretend to be this or that, or this character, or to have this kind of job, or I'm a firefighter, astronaut, blah, 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 and it's all good and fun. But we kind of hold on to that mechanism of playing pretend throughout our lives, into our adult lives. If you've ever noticed, there's a lot of guarded people out there. We're all guarded to some degree. We have a body armor or shield up with a lot of times with certain people, certain aspects in our lives. Maybe it's our job, stuff like that. And we put on kind of a front, or we put on a mask. We play a certain character for a lot of people, depending on what scenario we're in, what role we're in, what movie script we're playing in. So you may be getting the nudge or a sign to kind of like ease off some of that front that you're putting up, some of that body armor that you're putting on that's protecting you, right? You don't want to appear vulnerable to anybody, right? Because fear, again, creeps in. Fear of judgment, fear of, disease, being attacked in some way, whether it's verbally, emotionally, physically, okay? So it's easing up on some of that shielding that we're trained to do throughout life, throughout the world, and learning how to put up our shield when necessary, but not 24/7, because what happens when we're constantly guarded, we constantly have a front, a mask on, right, that we never take off for anybody, then we're not as connected as we could be. We're not being authentically us. Again, it's going to have an effect on our energetic system. It's going to start to pull more energy out of us instead of bringing energy in us to really live in our truth, live in our potential. Number 3, releasing unnecessary complications, complexity, drama. Have you ever noticed that human beings are one of the best species at making things more complicated than they need to be? It was kind of like, and I've used this in another video as an example, if you remember, if you're old enough to know what MapQuest was back in the day, or you could, your GPS, your navigation system. Say if instead of giving you the most direct route, it gave you these weird sideways, all these weird twisty turns to get to the same destination. Why couldn't it just give me the most direct, fastest route? It had to take me on all these, road trip down all these side roads and stuff like that. So that's what we do with our lives a lot of times. We make things more complex than we need to be. I'm convinced that our brain is just like geared up for that. It loves just making things hard. Have you noticed that in the world? Like everything feels so complex. When you make a phone call to an insurance company or something, like it never seems easy for some reason. You're going around in circles and you're talking to, people from other countries, and then they're transferring you to somewhere else in another country, and then you get like disconnected and you have to call all over again. Like nothing seems very simple the way we do it. But the higher self, the most connected self, is telling you, simplify your life, man. Like stop making little problems huge problems. Okay? Look at everything from a bird's eye view, from a larger perspective in your life, instead of honing in on one little thing and attaching to that one little thing and having it ruin your day, right? Or your month or your year. Like simplicity is the key to happiness. Simplicity is the key to peace. When we make things complex up here, then everything else gets tense and we start overthinking and it starts taxing our body. Which brings me to number 4, which is kind of along the similar lines. The higher self is telling you that efforting is not the way to freedom. Efforting is not the way to freedom. What do I mean by this? Let's go back to that feeling in the flow. When you feel in the flow, how do you feel? You feel like there is no time, right? You just get things done. You don't think about it. You're in the zone. You're doing something that you enjoy doing, but you're kind of like also in this neutral place in the zone, right? You're out of your mental bodies, your mental like overthinking kind of brain all the time. So this is what I'm talking about, is riding the waves of life rather than this push-pull, as I mentioned. Because when you're constantly pushing and you're constantly pulling, it's a struggle. Life becomes a struggle. So if you're not aware and you're not paying attention of when you're feeling that constant tension, when something maybe isn't right for you, it's not the right time, or you've been like doing the hamster wheel, trying to get, reality to just cave to you, and it never does, you have to question why. Is it because it's connected to my most connected self, higher self, authentic self, whatever, cosmic self, badass self, whatever you want to call it? Or is it because I'm just like, I've been told I should do things this way, or, I feel I'm not listening to my intuition, I'm not listening to my gut, I'm going against the grain of everything I innately stand for deep down. So you have to question that and realize that efforting is not necessarily the path to freedom. It's gonna, you could still get to a destination, but it's gonna be much, much more difficult than if you're really aware and centered in yourself. And number 5, this is the Veruca Salt mentality. Now, if you know my Willy Wonka reference, you've seen the movie, Veruca Salt in the movie is the one who says, I want it now. So what I mean by this is releasing and letting go of our quick fix mentality. Ooh, this is a tough one, right? Because we all want it now. We all want the miracle. We all want the magic. That's why we watch videos and stuff all the time on YouTube. So the higher self wants you to release your grip on the world. This means efforting, but this also means patience, okay? And how the human mind is always like, sees what other people are doing, or they try to keep up, and there's this competition mindset. Getting away from that and being your own person in life, and breaking out of the cycle of the quick fix mentality. Okay, because when you're in that mentality, you're almost always going to be disappointed to some degree. Because we all know that crash diets and fad diets are not meant to last. Nobody can do them long term because they're really difficult and they're not aligned to what our body actually wants. Our body wants to be nourished. It doesn't want to be starved, right? So this is a good example. So when you're doing something very temporarily, thinking you're going to get long-term results, hate to tell you, but it's probably not in your highest good to do it that way. It's more in your highest good for the, the turtle, being like the turtle, slow and steady wins the race. I love that because that's how I feel, having things happen naturally, organically in your life is aligning to your higher self. When you're looking for the quick fix mentality, like I need to fix this in my life right now, it's usually coming from a place of fear, avoidance, escapism is a good one, or just the ego competing with somebody else, thinking I need to catch up. So it's coming from some sort of insecurity within. That's not connected to the higher self. The higher self knows that, your potential is infinite. So as long as you're living your life as true to yourself as you can, going through the ebbs and flows of your life and flowing as much as you can without the pushing and the pulling, like really honing in on your intuition and what you feel in your heart and in your listening to your gut when it's screaming at you, instead of letting your brain override those feelings. Really practicing being in that place, in that centered place throughout life, like sitting in, I'll use the example again of like the eye wall of the hurricane, right? Where all the chaos is happening around you, but you're in the calm, centered eye wall, looking at everything, observing, knowing when to make your move. So whether or not you've been feeling some of these things or having the nudge to let go of them, or maybe some of this was new for you and maybe there's some wisdom in there, I don't know. But, being the most connected you is the most important thing that you can be in life, because so many people are walking around like zombies, disconnected, or they're living on a very surface level life. Of course, everybody has different depths, and that's fine, but if you're a purpose seeker or you're seeking more out of your life, you're looking for more substance, more depth, if you're watching this video wondering, who is my higher self and how do I connect to it? Then you're probably going to resonate with some of this stuff. And just know that it's not an overnight thing. It's a process of growth in our lives, of, constantly you know, having those ebbs and flows, constantly having those times where we kind of resort back to old ways because we're attached. We're human after all. We are physically human. Nobody can deny that. But we also have a part of us that I believe is not human, okay? A part of us that you've experienced when you're in the flow. You've experienced when you feel that joy and gratitude out of nowhere that just expands you, where you kind of radiate, almost you're radiating light out of you, right? Where you just feel happy, or you just feel content, or if something just brings you peace and you can't explain why it brings you peace. That's what I'm talking about here, okay? That is the most infinite part of you, the part of you that is part of the universe at whole, that is the universe at whole, essentially. So when you think from the aspect of, I'm not just this like low, lonely little human down here, I am nature, I'm the universe, I'm connected to everything around me, everyone around me. So what I do in my life is going to affect other things, right? So yeah, so I hope you found this video helpful. Let me know in the comments below. Hit that like button, subscribe. I put out new videos every single week for you on all kinds of cool topics. I truly appreciate you watching and supporting this channel. I really, really do. And until next time, I'll see you in the next one. Peace.